Welcome to the Beyond Membership podcast, where we are uncovering what drives associations forward and how the suite of Momentive software products accelerates that momentum. It's December. We're here again, Rob. It's very cold, lots of snow. How are things going for you?
Well, it's slightly better here because I'm down in Florida, so no snow. Although I was just up in D.C. last week. I understand they may have gotten some snow overnight last night. I got home just in time. I was up there visiting some clients and some, other organizations, as I normally do when I, head to one of the cities. And next week, I'm actually going back there again. Normally I don't go to the same place in 2 weeks in a row, but it's kind of a busy time that people are trying to get meetings in place here late in the year. I'm also attending, since I'm there, the Association Women Technology Champions has an event on Tuesday next week. So I will be going to that and seeing a lot of industry influencers as well as a lot of association professionals there. And then finally, next Thursday, I'm involved with an ASAE presentation. They are doing what they're calling a demo days on AI, which obviously is going to connect with some of today's conversation. So me and Brian Cignoli on our team, he's our VP of Product Management and is instrumental in a lot of the AI activity going on in our organization, are giving a presentation. And we're going to be talking about how an organization using 4 of our solutions are using various AI tools to complete lots of activities and make their job easier and improve life for members. So I'm very excited about that presentation. Jake, you'd probably be a better choice for doing it than me, but I know you're really busy right now, so they got me instead.
Yeah, actually working closely with Brian on some of those features we're looking to bring out, so it's pretty exciting stuff. That's really cool. You seem to be jetting all over the place. So,
well, it's interesting because even just a year ago when ASC had these demo days, it was they had demo days for AMS systems and LMS systems and various things like that. But now, obviously, AI is becoming so pervasive that now they feel it makes sense for folks to be able to show what interesting things they're doing that are delivering value. So we were very pleased and honored that we were invited to be part of this inaugural event and participate in that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good segue to our topic today and our very distinguished guest. We are joined today by Senior VP of Operations, Mike Lakis from American Foundry Society. Mike, it's great to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and make sure you include the most interesting thing that you could think of.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on the show. I am the Senior Vice President of Operations at American Foundry Society. In terms of the association world, I've been an association executive or in the association space for about over 20 years or so. Always been on the technology side. It's been something that's super interesting to me. Always tried to push the envelope, and I guess that's why I'm here. And something interesting about me. So in 2018, I went to a place called Chernobyl. And so that was a lot of fun.
Wow.
It's very, very, very unique experience.
Yeah.
And something that nobody mentioned that is you're actually only 26 years old, and since you've been there, things have gone a little sideways. Is that true?
Yes. It put like another 25 years in all of this gray on my beard. It's terrible. But no, it's quite an experience. Really humbling to see how nature's reclaimed everything inside the extrusion zone. So it was really cool.
Wow,
that is so interesting.
That's fascinating. So when you were there, did you have to take any sort of precautions?
Oh yeah, we all had like Geiger counters and stuff, and there was like hotspots. So if the Geiger counter goes off, you move move your butt, right? Because it's
right.
Like okay. And at one point, we were on like in a small van, and we went through an area called the Red Forest, and the trees are just red for some reason, and everyone's Geiger counter went off, and then like the driver like started speeding through it. So,
oh, wow.
There's some really, there's still some hot spots there. So, that's not a place like you don't want to spend a lot of time.
Right.
Um, but it was really fun, and it was really a neat experience.
Yeah.
Now, did you fly to Moscow and then go from there, or what was the route?
Oh no. So we flew into Kiev, and from Kiev, it's about a 2 hour bus ride into the Chernobyl area. And once in the exclusion zone, there's like the remnants of the city Chernobyl, and then there's actually a village, Pripyat, which was like right next to the reactor, and that's been abandoned. And it's not like a kid's tour, let me tell you, because we're going through all the abandoned buildings that are falling apart, and the some of the floorboards are caving in, so you have to be careful. We went to like a school where there was just rooms and rooms filled with gas masks and stuff, and you can see on the children's desk like the page that they had open on their like textbooks when they were ordered to evacuate and everything.
Wow.
So it's kind of creepy, but really
Yeah.
interesting.
That's definitely one of the more interesting answers we've gotten.
Absolutely.
I'm full of them, so you keep going.
Well, we're just so pleased you were able to join us. We didn't expect to get something quite that interesting to start, but we have much more that we know is interesting that we're going to talk about. And, the reason why I invited you on this podcast to join Jake and me is because when I had been at ASC Annual, you gave a presentation that I thought was fascinating on work that you had done at your organization using a series of AI capabilities. And so maybe you could start off by kind of telling all of us what the problem that you were trying to solve, and then we can, start peeling back the onion from there.
Sure, absolutely. So, as I mentioned before, I work for the American Foundry Society, and foundries, what they do is they pour liquid metal into molds, essentially. And liquid metal is really hot, and you have to be really careful, and you want to know what you're doing is right. So that's what we do. And the organization's been around for 127 years, so it's a spring chicken, if you will. So there's lots of data that we've accumulated, lots of research and all that great stuff. And approximately about 3 years ago, ChatGPT like 3.5 was a thing, and it started to really pique my interest. That was the age of like DALL-E, and you can generate images and all this great stuff. But one of the things I noticed is it was really good at like summarizing data. And as an association, that like we sit on treasure troves of like high quality, the truth data, and a pillar of truth data. And we really want to be able to make that data valuable for members. Right now, it's kind of like an static, you have to go search for it, all that fun stuff. But I wanted to figure out how I could really use this data to provide first-in-class, state-of-the-art experience and value for our members. And so that's what started me off on the AI path. And, we picked it up from there because it's such a like use case. I mean, it's a perfect use case for AI.
I seem to remember you got a DoD grant or something like that which didn't necessarily say go use AI, but you got some funding to explore new ways to make this information more readily available to your members.
Yeah. So one of the ways we were able to fund this project was through a DoD grant, as you mentioned. Right now, the boomers are retiring, so there's this knowledge transfer concern. They're leaving the workplace, and it's like, oh, we're going to lose all this institutional knowledge, and a lot of that institutional knowledge is locked up in this research. So this seemed like a good and reasonable extension that we can add on to that project, because originally when we started down this road, it was not part of the project, but we were able to find a way to implement the AI and at like a fairly inexpensive, it's an inexpensive lift. So we were able to tack it on to that project.
Yeah, that's really cool. What I like about this is like how much of a practical application it is of AI technology with like data that you already had, but it's a little bit more than just search, right? Like yeah. I'm kind of prompting you to tell me a little bit more about it.
It absolutely is more than just an AI search.
Right.
And one of the things that, when you're dealing with information that it could literally be life and death, right? You don't want to get an alloy wrong. You don't want to put in the wrong mixture of what have you and have it explode in your face. One of the things that we were really concerned about was accuracy and hallucination resistance. And as you know, AIs want to give you an answer, even if it's incorrect. As long as it sounds good, that's like kind of what their reward system is trained on.
Right.
So we had to figure out a way to kind of break that training and have it really focus on providing you like citation-based answers. And so that's what we've done. Every statement it makes has to be backed up with a citation. And we've loaded all 127 years of research into the system. So, every statement has a citation at the end. You click on the citation, and that loads up the research paper. And once the research paper is loaded, we actually go through the research paper and highlight where that information was originated from. So that allows people to see the statement and then go verify in the research that it is not hallucinated, it is correct.
Right.
Now, Jake, when you have been doing work with Nimble using the Salesforce AI tools, have you run into hallucination issues?
Oh yeah, hallucinations are a significant issue for high quality production AI use cases. And so Mike's touching on like a really important thing there where, and I would say for Nimble AMS in particular, probably not so much, but for Momentive IQ and the platform we're building, significantly more. And what you kind of have to how you have to deal with that is you need like very robust quality control practices. So I'm sure this is kind of one of the questions I was going to get into here with Mike is, how do you actually quality control for that? I think that's a question that our audience would be really interested in, because I think everybody has that same need, and unless you're really have a robust engineering background, which I know you do, and you're familiar with like technology and the various ways that you could maybe deal with a problem like this, it's kind of overwhelming. It's a difficult problem to solve, and it definitely makes you hesitate to taking these AI tools and like exposing them to your members, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a problem that is still dogging AI to this day. And the way we set about it was like, first off, yeah, I had help, right? Wasn't just me like going off in my basement and be like, oh, okay, there we go. We had, actual PhD machine learning people on this problem. And we really stressed in the AI pipeline that if you don't know the answer, do not give an answer, right? Say you don't know. And that is actually one of the crowning achievements of our system. It actually does that, which is really against sort of like the underlying what the AI wants to do. So we've been really impressed on that, how that works. As far as kind of like accumulating and pulling together this data, when you're dealing with data that's been around for years and years and years, boy, that's a big task. It was in lots of different formats. It was very, very ugly. At least a lot of it was. So we had to spend a lot of time, pre-processing that data, doing OCR. We used AIs to actually try to process that data and get us good information out of it. So that was a huge project as part of this. And even to this day, we're still scanning in articles from like books that are, from the 60s or what have you, and then running that through our pipeline. And then the AI is able to ingest that information properly.
Yeah.
So you're in some ways trying to almost create like a metadata that then the AI ingests once it's coming out of those old documents?
Yes. So there's an entire ingestion pipeline that, a lot of it's kind of like proprietary and all they say, but it does try to piece things out and present it to another AI in a way that is understandable by that other AI. And then it gets pushed into, vector storage and all that fun stuff. So
Right.
it's not like a drag and drop and you're done. There's a whole pipeline for ingestion.
Right. Yeah. And typically, right, like the more sophisticated you have maybe humans in the loop, you have you have review, you maybe have several agents with different sort of like needs or outcomes that they want from the data that they kind of decorate the ultimate end result. So there's a lot to it, and I can definitely resonate with not wanting to tell all your secrets, right, about that. But for, I think, a lot of associations, I think people that work at associations that want to implement AI tools, they get a lot of what they'll hear. They'll go to a presentation and they'll hear, you got to get your data in the right state. And I imagine that a lot of them leave that discussion thinking, what in the world was that person talking about about my data? And I think this is like the first time that I've ever talked practically about it with somebody in the association space, to this degree. So I think like if you're a person working for an association that wants to ship AI features to your members, this is what people mean when they say getting your data in the right spot. Like this is what they mean. They mean the ingestion and getting it into storage that's makes it easier to be accessed by AI tools like vector storage, which may be a brand new term for somebody who's in that position. And so that's probably a place to spend some time looking and thinking about next steps, right, for your data.
Yeah, sure. It is a lot of prep work on implementing AI, right? You have to, like, as I said, if you garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
The same adage goes. The one of the challenges is, especially if you have a ton of data, is that data may be like conflicting. It could be, obsolete, could be just like garbage data. So you definitely need a curation process. One of the things that we were lucky about is we have a very rigorous peer review process. So, we're starting off like one step ahead, right? We don't really have to go through and do a lot of like, oh, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? We've already had people do that for us.
Right.
I think in the association space, you have that data already that has been blessed.
Yeah, so many do.
It's like, oh, that's a treasure trove with AI. So that really gives us a leg up. A lot of people will look at this issue and be like, well, I want to dump everything on there.
Right.
And then you can't do that because then what you're going to get out is going to be a mishmash of kind of insanity.
Right.
So that's, from an association perspective, we're really in a good position to we have a good, like some golden data, and it's already like pretty good. And now it's just, accumulating that, making sure it's all right and pushing it in.
I certainly believe that associations that are scientific based, medical based, any of these types of groups that have all this important information, they have a peer review to accept the information as the standard in the industry. Associations like yours have been doing this for years and years, and this is such an incredible way in some ways for you to repurpose this information and just make it all that much more accessible and usable, which is what associations can do so well.
Absolutely. And, we're just talking about research papers here, but, data is data, right? Where associations are generating through like webinars, like tons of content. And our next project is taking these webinars and feeding it into the system, doing a slightly altered ingestion process. Well, it's actually a new ingestion process, and having these videos or podcasts or whatever accessible, in the system. So you can ask a question, it'll say, oh, that information was actually covered in this video. You click on the video and it actually will scrub to where that information was talked about. So not only do you don't have to watch the whole thing, you just click on the citation and it says, oh, okay, this is what the guy is talking about at that time. So we're really excited about this upcoming feature.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that's right? That's a problem ubiquitous across the space at the moment of like, how do we get more data? I'm sure there's many problems with the multimodal approach that you'd have to take to kind of get that data in. So I'm quite curious, but I won't pick any more to ask. I imagine there's something with transcription and maybe some image analysis. But yeah, that's really exciting. I mean, being able to link to a space in a video is like, it's like a magical feature, right? Like it's gonna blow minds of members for sure.
Yeah, we have a pilot working, and we're just finalizing some of the interface, but it's there, and it's phenomenal, especially when you're dealing with multimedia files. That information is locked up, right? It's hard to search and all that fun stuff. So this really supercharges that information, and it makes it so much more valuable to your membership.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned when we were chatting earlier that I got quite a chuckle out of was that you were saying that when you first were debuting this and maybe even in beta mode, that your folks that were testing it, the first thing they would do is they would go look up themselves, because of course they knew what they had published, so they were of course curious to see if it pulled up the right stuff.
So we went through an extensive beta period where we're giving this to various committees that we have. And absolutely, the first thing that people did was like, oh, I want to see if it pulls up the paper that I wrote. And, the challenge we have here is that, LLMs are not necessarily good at contextualizing data. They don't know what an author is, right? It's just a block of numbers to them. So we had to, and initially we launched it without this feature, but this is a feature that we really had to think about, like, how do we provide better answers if you're looking for a paper name or author. So we did come up with a way to do that. We call it the semantic search, so that it recognizes, oh, you're looking for an author, and this is goes through a different actual AI pipeline to answer that question. And that's helped a lot because that really helps with someone's first experience using it, because they're always trying to do the vanity search. So that's been really successful and really helped get a greater trust developed between the researchers in the field and the answers that we're providing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really actually kind of an interesting story. One thing that I would ask is, how is the observability for you in production? So as someone who runs production software, it's like this particular use case is a bit of a nightmare in terms of it being deterministic or potentially not in some
It
cases.
It is non-deterministic. It is probabilistic.
Right, exactly. Which
always
is
interesting.
Yeah, so it kind of behooves you to have really good observability, right, in terms of what's happening in production. So how is that for you, and are you able to kind of get some insights into the usage of the tool?
Yeah, so we have a reporting layer that sits on top of the system that we can use to analyze what's being asked about. It's anonymized, it's only, generalized high level, but we can see that, a number of people are asking about this process or what have you. And it provided, it'll kind of say I provided answers for this. But then it'll say, in this the system that we have, it'll say, oh, and these things were asked about, and I didn't have any data to provide them. So that really gives you tremendous insight into a hot topic that may be, going on with your membership. And then you can then adjust your research, adjust your, conference topics, all that great stuff based on actual feedback that people are asking about. So we find that very valuable.
Incredibly valuable. I'm sure for the folks who do the sessioning for your events, when they're trying to determine topics, that would be an ideal area for them to use as content to ingest into that decision.
Absolutely. We've definitely been able to locate some deficits in our data. And some people ask for things that are not in that data. They ask for things from a publication or what have you. So there's a lot of thought into what else can we put in there to provide it, make it more valuable.
I was going to say, taking the discussion just a slightly different direction. I remember when we were talking that you use our Nimble AMS essentially from an SSO perspective to determine access to this solution for, for your members.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of curious how the organization made the decision to make this solely a member benefit and not maybe a pay-to-play for non-members or organizations. So talk a little bit about that from the business strategy side of it.
Sure. So we also have a library, online library system. So a lot of these articles are already accessible to membership, but they're unfortunately locked into a library system, which is very good at what it does, but it has like catalogs and bookmarks and all this kind of like esoteric kind of terminology, and its search function is not great because a lot of that metadata really doesn't exist, right? So you can spend a lot of time going through and not finding what you want. For example, we had a quote from somebody who spent 2 hours looking for some references to a subject. And he found like 5 papers. And then using the AI, he found 12 in like 5 minutes that he was like, this is even better. So all of our members, getting back to the question, all of our members already had access to that data. We've just provided them with a like supercharged version that is much more valuable. And we still have the library system. Some researchers are more comfortable in that medium, but we find that the younger folks who are growing up with AI or accustomed to it, much more digital natives, if you will, they're big into like, I have a question, give me the answer. And so we provide both to our members.
I think that's a great member benefit, and I would say it goes a little bit beyond AI search to AI research assistant agent sort of kind of use case.
I like to call it an assistant.
Yeah.
But I am not in the marketing space. So my original terminology was overruled.
Okay.
But it is essentially a research assistant for you, right?
Yeah.
No, and it's used by, what's interesting, it's used by people who are like on production lines too. They're designing an engine, they're designing maybe a military part or what have you. And they're asking like blah, 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 like stuff. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But so we see that usage, and then we see usage from like researchers who are looking for, specific data. They'll ask, which I don't know, I was talking to one of our members about this. He was asking like, where are the deficits in knowledge in this particular subject to help him get some research ideas out of it. So that was kind of a neat use case. And one of the things we also see is, when you're dealing with web resources, a lot of people just go there, boom, they're there for 30 seconds and they're out. With this particular tool, we're seeing like sessions in like 5-10 minutes in length all the time. Like the average session length is over like 6 minutes. It's insane. That's the only product that we have that really has like that kind of like stickiness.
Right.
We have another client, the American Geophysical Union, that is using, it sounds like similar types of data, but the use case that's been most interesting to them is that they have used it to connect members together. So essentially, it will peruse all these research files and it will determine members who may not know each other, but will connect them because their research overlaps in some way. And they've had a great deal of success connecting these folks together who didn't otherwise know each other, and it seems like they should have. And I'm just kind of curious if you'd considered any kind of use case like that.
It's been something that's in the back of my mind because one of the fundamental blocks in building out this kind of AI is something called a transformer. And a transformer develops relationships between data, right? So if you have like a researcher, they have like a specific, area of expertise, and that data then can be, pushed into a transformer architecture, transformer database, and we can discover, relationships between that data and other other data. There's actually something called, let's see if I can remember this. So there's a RAG model out there. There's an alternative, slightly alternative called graph RAG, which actually can develop graphs. So graphs between like this person to this person, this person, this person, or it can develop graphs of ideas or like this led to this, led to this. Or like you'll take like a story and say like, well, this character has a relationship to this, to this. So that might be another way to look at that and approach that that problem. You know, we have a finite amount of resources we're throwing at this. And while that's very interesting, it is not like currently on our roadmap.
Right. But I think getting like you have the ability as AFS because of all the great work you've done to your data, to working through with your technology partners to be able to have this sort of like feature that you could pivot. If that became something that was like super interesting, you might pivot, right? Like you had, and that all is due to all the great work you have done. So that's pretty impressive, I think.
Absolutely. It's kind of neat when you're dealing with, you know, this kind of technology is that it really opens up what you can do. Like you get so much stuff for free.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we discovered when we were building out like this system is that, if you ask it a question in a different language, it responds in a different language. So we get language translation
automatically.
It's like, what? I learned, deep in like when this was already in like a beta and we're giving it out to people, somebody showed me like, I had it like create an Instagram post for me. And then it had like emojis and stuff in it. And I was like, what is that? Nobody told me you could do that. So, you know, we're still discovering things that it can do. And fundamentally, like the technology can be used in a tremendous amount of ways. It's like the first technology, like since like the smartphone, where I'm like, holy cow, it's continuing to like wow me. It's like, I can't believe it can do that. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, back to that scenario that I was suggesting, I mean, because I was thinking with what you're pulling together here, it would be very easy for you guys to, you know, invoke something back in Nimble, some Nimble automation that would connect these two people together. I mean, like you already have all the tools to be able to do something like that. But as you said, you know, you've got a certain size of staff and capabilities to just do so many of these things. But you're right. I mean, for me, the you know, the big wows were when I saw the first World Wide Web the first time, then this, you know, the first time a real mobile phone came out that wasn't just text, and then this, I guess for me, is the third one where I keep being wowed by the progress, and we all know this one's moving faster than ever. So,
oh, it's crazy. I mean, with Gemini 3 just came out. If you guys are familiar with it, it does extraordinarily well on the ARC 2 test, which is, you know, the first rounds of LLMs, like the 4.0 area, like did so well on it. They redeveloped it to like the ARC 2, and now like Gemini scored like a 45 or something, which is twice as good as the last model, which is insane that we're still having these big jumps in like the development data. But getting back to like, using Nimble in this process, you know, we use it for the single sign-on, but one of the things we're looking at is because the SSO works so well and we can pass like different information dynamically from the AMS, we're thinking, well, maybe like, you know, we can segment out like using like access control lists, like what people have access to. So that is something we're looking at. We know we can do it on the Nimble AMS side, right?
Right.
It's that kind of, we can build that into the product, not a problem. Like, they're on this committee, give them, pass this information in JSON packet, right? So we're looking at like what we can do on the AI side with that information, since Nimble is nimble, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's really cool to see those things kind of blending together, and Nimble offering some value to that use case would be very interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, AMSs are kind of a grab bag of good and bad. And, having worked with them for 20 years, But the single sign-on that we've been using is fantastic. Like it's the first one that has really worked. So that is core to our strategy in terms of like building out these systems and getting them all to work together and providing good membership experience.
Yeah. I mean, one thing about the nimble AMS single sign-on being on Salesforce, being right next to all your data, it's kind of really convenient. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually have one more question I'd like to ask you, Mike, before
Sure.
we wrap up. You brought up Gemini just a moment ago. Have you guys switched in and out any LLMs for the foundation of your solution, or have you stuck to one? Do you plan on introducing other LLMs? I'm just kind of curious how you take advantage of the new advancements that are just happening.
Sure. So we have currently we've stuck to a specific version of ChatGPT that we found provides a good balance between the quality of answers it provides and the speed. However, the system's built like modularly, so we can plug in different LLMs into the system and then run through, like what the results would be and see if they're any better or not. And we haven't yet tested one of the new models. That is something we're looking at next quarter. It's just again finite resources. The system is working really well now. Haven't had a chance to like go back and insert those new models in. But there's no reason we can't just switch models. We may eventually decide that it might be like maybe the user wants to switch models.
right.
Although having said that, it's very hard to figure out what model does what. So if I don't know what model does what, probably the user would be like, "What? I don't care," right? So yeah, that is absolutely possible, and the situation is changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
Like right now, and this is like in the Gemini 3 Pro time frame, and that one is looking amazing. And really, I've been using it for some vibe coding. Oh, and secrets out, right? And it's fantastic. It is utterly fantastic. But OpenAI, the rumor is OpenAI is like, launching another version next week that's supposed to be, on par with like this big jump that Gemini had. It's crazy. And one of the interesting things that Gemini proves is that all this like tremendous amount of compute that's being thrown into these systems, there's actually a return and like increased intelligence.
Linearly, like compute is still giving us returns. So there's like nobody's even worried about the data problem yet. That will come at some point, though.
Absolutely. And it's just crazy that it continues to scale.
Yeah, it is insane. Like you just keep throwing GPUs at it, and it just keeps getting better.
So this technology really has legs. Is it a bubble? Sure.
Probably.
Is it useful at the end of the day? Absolutely. Again,
Yes.
it is a game changer.
Yeah, I think just to talk a little bit about that too, just because you invoked a lot of thoughts with your answer. There's generally for folks who aren't kind of bought into this yet, when you're choosing, you don't want to couple yourself to a model. First of all, if you're building a system, building a feature, and it's like we can only use this model because this is the model, you made a mistake. Go back and abstract that away, right? But also, you might have many models working together to your end goal, because you're going to choose models based on use case, you're going to choose models based on cost, and you're going to choose models based on responsiveness. So that, or responsiveness meaning like how fast it comes back to you. And so those are kind of the like things that you're really weighing, and you have some agents, some models that you're going to use to classify intent, like what does your user want, and you're going to have other models that look at your answer and make sure it makes sense, right? And I'm sure there's probably it gets much more complicated than that, right? To achieve what AFS has achieved in terms of this feature being in production and being able to answer with citations only, right? Like there's probably a lot of that, right? So I'm sure, I just wanted to point some of that out for some of our listeners who may be thinking about building something. You really don't want to couple yourself to model. They're coming out every other week, right? Like Mike's saying here. So you got to be ready to use a new one.
It's crazy. And now we're moving into like, the age of agentic AI. which I again gonna like plug Gemini 3 here, even though I usually use ChatGPT. Um, I've been using it in an agentic fashion, so you have like your vibe coding. But I've been using it in like agentic means that you're telling it, hey, you go do this, and it kind of goes autonomously and it does it, and then at some point it'll say, hey, I did this task, right? Unsupervised, if you will. And with vibe coding before, I was kind of like, create this function and have it do this and blah, blah, blah. And I run the function and test things out and all that great stuff. But in this, in this instance, I'm just saying, hey, I need to get this stuff out of this file and hit this web service and blah, 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 blah. Do it. And it'll write up all the test cases. It'll go through, generate all the, Python script and just go and do it. And it's like, here's what happened. Here's like the output I saved in this file. Have I looked at the code? No. Why do I need to look at the code? It's irrelevant to me. It's just done the task. The task that I needed the code to do is done. And I told it to do that. I didn't have to tell it how to write the function or whatever.
Right.
Which I found again, vibe coding was amazing to me because my undergrad was pure science a million years ago, but I haven't programmed in a long time. So, that muscle has atrophied away. But this way, with vibe coding, I was able to code again. And now it's even better because I just tell it what to do and it goes and does it.
Right.
Is it successful all the time? Not at all. Does it make up stuff to do?
Sure.
Quite a lot, but it's still kind of neat.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Is it churning out production level code? No, it is not. Please do not use it in production.
Yes.
But you can get some really useful stuff from it, right? Like you can actually make progress, make legs in your journey towards the eventual thing you want to build. And even if you throw out what AI gave you, it gave you some great ideas. It iterated you to the next thing that was actually going to be the outcome that you needed. So I totally agree. It's such an insanely good tool in the development process.
It's game changer.
Well, and it probably doesn't surprise you, Mike, that we are transforming ourselves at Momentum to be AI first. And as we march forward into 2026, I mean, everything we do, whether it's business process or software internally, AI is the first way we're trying to do it because just all these things that you're talking about is just so much productivity gain, and we want to make sure we're getting that rapidly out to folks like you and others so that we can help you do the business that you're doing.
Remember how things used to be mobile first?
Yep.
Everything was mobile first. And, I was like, yeah, that's great. I still have old school desktop, I have multiple.
Many of us do. I'm on it right now.
Yeah. And I do a lot of mobile stuff, but it's not my primary, I don't sit down and do work on my phone, right? But AI first, man, that makes a ton of sense. And that's really how you can deliver value to your customers. So we're really excited to see what you guys are doing and, take advantage of it to provide a better membership experience in every way we can.
Well, that's been another episode of the Beyond Membership Podcast.